Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining me for this week's episode of When I Grow Up. On today's episode, it's my pleasure and honor to welcome my guest, Sung Yoo. Hey Sung, how are you?
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, thank you so much for agreeing to do this with me. I'm excited to hear more about who you are, your story, your business, which I'm a big fan of. So again, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. So Sung, without me talking too much more, I do want to tell people though, like when I found your not your news feed, excuse me, your Instagram feed,
Uh-huh.
I was so inspired. Truly,
Aw.
I have not bought your products yet, which we're going to talk about, but I am a mother of two. As you know, I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I think as far as the products that you sell through your business goes, I'm just sorry. I'm trying not to expose too much before I want to give you a chance to talk about everything. But not only was I inspired by the products, but honestly, I think I was inspired just by the person, like just you behind the product. So truly, I'm excited that you're here. So Sung, can you tell me what is it that you do?
Yes. That's so flattering. Thank you for the introduction. I'm originally like a multi-disciplinary designer and now the creative director of Big Little Universe, which is my brand that has recently launched. I started Big Little Universe because I saw a gap in the market for children's product that really tie more content or let's say creative play to products. Multifunctionality is a very important part and value that I've been injecting into how we create, design, and develop content for the brand.
Okay.
And so, Big Little Universe is all about inspiring curiosity in little ones, helping them be more creative in how they play, as well as helping parents get more value out of products that are better designed so that you can have hopefully much less products in your home that do more, whether it is for play or just, daily use.
Yes, I am a big fan of that. I cannot tell you how, like, as much as I want to keep my kids occupied, like, we have so many little things that are unnecessary around the house. And I'm like, no more toys.
Yeah.
I don't want any more toys in my house. Like, and that is so cool that you found this kind of gap in the market to be able to fill it, hopefully, through Big Little Universe. So do you feel like that's kind of like your passion, like seeing a need and then trying to design something to fill that need?
Is it my passion? Solving for this is my passion. I like, and I want to sort of like define how I would articulate what I believe passion is.
Okay.
And because like I've done a lot of different types of work in the design industry, and I think it's been really important for me that I actually went through that in order to come to the conclusion that this is where my passion lies and this is the industry and sector that I want to solve for. Because as a designer, I've been able to use that, which is my way of problem solving, to work on a lot of different types of projects. So if you hear about my background, I've really done a lot of different types of work in design.
Well, I definitely want to hear all about that. But before I jump into that with you, can you tell me what a typical day for you would look like then as a creative
Okay.
director?
Oh, as a creative director, maybe I'll go through my routine
Okay,
if
yes.
that helps lay out a little bit of a framework, because I can be a very um disciplined. I don't know. In some ways, I was going to say like rigid, but also I don't know. It's a one or both. It's something like that. So the moment I wake up, although I do have chronic insomnia, so I don't sleep super well. Yeah, I officially found out this year that I have a certain kind of insomnia. But so my mind is usually awake around 3 a.m. But once I decide to wake up properly, I will first do about a 20-minute meditation. First thing when I like have full, consciousness and are deciding to wake up. The next thing I do will probably something around like probably brush my teeth and like wash my face, kind of do like a simple get ready routine. And then I will actually spend about 5 to 10 minutes just really like facing sunlight in order to get sort of my body and mind ready for the day. And then after that, I usually will have a glass of water, very important because I'm not so good about drinking water. It's part of my routine. I'll take a look at my schedule just to know exactly what I need to be prepared for the day. For the most part, my gym schedule depends. Sometimes it's earlier on in the morning, like today, but on certain times it's in the evening. But if I do have it scheduled for the morning, I'll go train. I get showered, get ready, and then as soon as I get home, I will, after being ready, I will actually journal for about 30 minutes or so, also to kind of just get my mind ready for the day, get everything out on paper, and then and then that's how my week starts, like my work day starts. Once a week, I will also volunteer as a art teacher or an art coach.
Oh, wow.
Virtually for children with chronic illness. So that's been a great pleasure as well.
That's amazing.
And normally on other days, it's pretty jam-packed with it just really depends on what I'm dealing with. It could be logistics, it could be customer service, it could be design work, it could be tech pack designing, it could be phone calls and meetings all day. So that's usually it. And then, my day ends, I finish eating by 8 p.m. And then hopefully I'm in bed to prepare to be asleep. But again, I have insomnia, so that's a little bit of a challenge in my life.
Man, that sounds really challenging and difficult. I can't even imagine what that's like because I'm really sensitive to caffeine, and I'm sure this is not the same as insomnia, but like if I drink a cup that like one a day, and that night my mind is racing and I can't sleep. So I can't imagine what it's like to live with chronic insomnia. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But then
It's less intense. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, but then, describing kind of, you mentioned that you're very disciplined. And I'm like, yes, I feel like you are the most prepared guest. Okay, sorry, other guests, but like you're the most prepared guest I've ever had. And I'm like so like grateful. And I'm like, man, this is why. This is why Sung is successful at Big Little Universe. This is why she's gotten where she is today because of your discipline and desire, I feel like, to just and excellence. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that's the vibe that I get from you.
Wow, thank you. I don't want to disagree with that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for such kind words. And also your time is very important to me as well. So hopefully I am as prepared as you're saying.
Oh yeah, no. Okay. So what I am always curious about, like whenever I see like businesses like Big Little Universe or even other small businesses that I've seen kind of come up through Instagram and actually get a lot of popularity and movement through just social media in itself, is like, how does it even start? Like the genesis of it all. Like even as a product designer, brand designer, as like yourself and all that you've been through, like you think of a product and then what? Then what happens?
Yeah. So I've always I innately knew that I wanted to, well, okay, let me just start over. So I innately, I think, always knew that I was going to be a creative or an artist, I guess, like since I was very young. Like that was kind of a given. It's also the only thing I really noticeably excelled at. As much as I may have tried a lot of other things, that was, the subject that I excelled at. So that was a bit of a given, but I think working up towards actually executing perhaps like all the different things that I've now had work experience in, it was really just making sure that I continued to explore and stay curious around what I really wanted to learn more of. Does that
Kind of, yeah. So
answer the question?
so for you with Big Little Universe, what is it that you were exploring in itself?
Yeah. So I guess maybe I have to tell the backstory of like starting from when I was okay. So I again when I was younger, I think it was very innate that I was going to be a creative or an artist of some sort. It was the subject that I excelled at naturally. And then I went to a high school that was a fine art school, which trained me a bit to prepare my portfolio. It was basically like a mini college. You apply with a portfolio, you learn different skill sets, and really it was a visual art school. So that helped prepare to go to college. Like deciding where you wanted to go to college was also dependent on, what your, I guess our teachers at the time would help sort of guide and lead what they felt was going to be appropriate. I applied to a lot of different schools that I was interested in, and but I landed in at Parsons, which was my number one school that I wanted to go to. There was also a little bit of a concern, at least from I grew up with a single parent, and being able to afford the school was going to be a challenge that we needed to face.
Sure.
So yeah, that was another real aspect of it, but we made it work. At least at that time, there was a lot of different ways that you can apply to scholarships, but in a very manual way. I had to like go to Barnes and Nobles and look through these like really thick books and like apply for as many scholarships as you could. And a lot of times you have to either write an essay or submit some artwork or, have recommendations and so forth. So did that. And then after school, during school also, like I always was just very curious about like what it was that I was going to be willing to continue to do. I always wanted to learn. I wanted to gain as much experience as possible. So as soon as I could get an internship, I started interning, like while I was in school. So that's how I gained some base knowledge around the different types of, corporate environments or smaller firms that I had worked at, in order to see what that experience was like. And then as soon as I graduated school, I had one of those internships turn into a full-time job. So that's how I like continued my career. As I got into my professional career, I quickly learned that I was very much curious about how I could gain more experience in a similar industry. So because I was a communication design major, it's pretty broad. I was able to take a class in book design. I did a lot of illustration, print, a lot of just print, based work, packaging design. So it's quite broad actually. And so anytime I got a better opportunity, I took the job. Perhaps the job was with a company or a brand that I aligned with in terms of what I wanted to learn or do. Or also financially, I was always looking at what opportunities there were so that I could continue to sort of excel and move forward and learn from directors that I knew that I would potentially want to be like, right? That I looked up to. So I tried a lot of different things. I tried a lot in beauty to start. I was also at an advertising firm. I did some like art directing and creative direction. And eventually I realized that with all the production work that I had done, like designing products and packaging, I started to realize that I really wanted to affect more, such as like an experience in a space. So that's when I started my custom design and build work. And I know that's a lot. I know I just said a lot, but that's really what it's been. I've been basically like sampling throughout majority of my career. But like I said, I think as much as it's applied to different types of things, it's really a similar foundation because it's all just problem solving through design.
Right. Yeah. No, thank you so much for sharing all of that because for me, what I hear is like, oh, like Sung knew what she was good at an early age. And I feel like like for you to be able to go to a fine arts high school, like is
Hmm.
such a blessing because, I think a lot of people don't know that early on, like their gifts and
Mm.
what they're good at. But even then, it's fascinating for me to hear you now. Do you mind me asking how old you are?
I'm 39.
Okay, so like you're still young, but like even now it's like it took you some time to really figure out what it is that you actually wanted to do. And I feel like with the podcast itself, for me, like that's the story, right? That's what gets me every time because it's like, yeah, you know what? Like, it's okay. Like, take your time, but when you find it, you will find it and like love it, I feel. But yes, I feel like that's the picture of a journey that gives people, especially Asian Americans, permission
Mm.
to like
Hmm.
explore and like do different things even if it's in your field already, right? Like cuz you did
Hmm.
so many other things too, but still
Yeah.
an artist.
Yeah.
Um that like yeah, and then you came to this kind of niche kind of areas like this is what I think I want to do. And that's really cool. You're so cool. Oh man.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
so like
So,
oh sorry, go
mm.
ahead. Go ahead. What were we going to say?
No, I just wanted to say like all of those different experiences is what helped define what I want to solve for
Mm,
ultimately. That's the conclusion of that, right? And I've definitely had moments and doubts where small moments, not big moments, but where I felt like, oh, like am I trying too many different things? Should I just stick to this one particular skill set thing and just do that and continue to like, I don't know, try to climb the corporate ladder. Although very early on, I also knew that wasn't going to be a fit for me.
mhm, mhm.
But I just, I honestly, I just kind of went with my true, my, how I felt. And how I felt was I wanted to learn more. I was curious. I was excited about learning new skill sets. And especially when you find things that you're also not great at or don't know yet, I think it's just the best way to have the most growth. So I just kind of always went with that attitude like
Yeah.
I'm not great at this yet, but I'm here and I'm ready.
Fake it till you make it. Oh man, so good. Okay, so with Big Little Universe, what was like the first product you came up with?
Okay, so that's a loaded question.
Oh.
Yes, because I think before even a product, the brand or even having a children's brand was in the back of my mind for many, many years.
Mm.
I had done the whole thing of like brainstorming, right, brand names without even knowing what it is that I wanted to do years before. And of course, like bought the domain names and did that whole went through that whole process. But when I was launching, it was a little bit more strategic than thinking about like what product do I want to launch with. I needed to have something that I can introduce Big Little Universe to the world with. And that was done through a gift set, just to be able to show the different values that were important to the brand, which is multifunctionality, as well as the essentials that were included in that gift set were all very useful, practical, and easy to use products. Because a lot of times, right, like you have people perhaps like having babies or who have children that you want to gift something to, but it's quite hard to find gift sets that are of good value that are also going to be very useful, right? There's very high-end products that are beautiful and gorgeous, of course, and then there's like just kind of like basic gift sets that don't feel as thoughtful to give at times. And at times I find myself supplementing, right? Like buying a couple other things to add to a gift box. So that was my way of just presenting my thought process to the world. So we started with a gift box.
Oh, wow. So what were some of the things in the gift box?
We had some soft goods. So all organic muslin and cotton, like soft products. There was like, which we still sell actually. We have a resizable muslin cotton bandana bib that can also be used as, like a burp cloth, or even later on, it's very absorbent. We had, there was also a lovey in there, which we also still carry, which is just like a comfort product. It's a comfort toy. A hand-carved wood animal, which was also like a mystery animal. So you don't know quite yet what animal and the different characteristics it'll be, but it's sort of like a fun little thing. So we had a little descriptor card, and it was a mystery animal that you can open. And this is in the newborn box, so it's like parents to be, getting excited about what that be. That can be used as a teether or just like stacking blocks later on.
Wow.
Yeah, those are just a couple of the items. There was a lot of different varieties of that, but for different age ranges.
That's awesome. I mean, what a great idea. And so that's how you wanted to kind of present the brand, you said, to the rest of the world. And with that, so what happened after you launched your first gift set? What I guess what I'm really trying to ask, Sung, is like,
Yes.
How did you get traction? Like, how did you get people to come in, and how did you get your name out there and people buying the products?
Mm-hmm. So to start, because I soft launched in COVID, it was during COVID. It was a little bit of a strange experience, because initially with the soft launch, there wasn't an immediate feedback because I also wasn't interacting or seeing people in person. So you kind of feel like you put in all this work to launch something like a website, and then you're like, oh, okay, now what? Now what's happening next? So the way that at least I solved for it in the immediate was, before I did any marketing or any advertisement of any sort, I actually did back-to-back about 12 pop-ups, because those were outdoors. It was not even a part of the strategy or part of my thought process, to be honest, but I realized that it was the best way to just really just like get out there and to also see how, people would react to the brand.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was in California, which, I originally was in New York initially. So while I was here, I was like, okay, let me take advantage of this. And through that was like sort of the start of understanding and knowing very valuable data and information as to how I should create and what I should focus on for not only describing the products that I sell, but also what I would design next. Because I could see parents and children reacting right away, like in person.
Wow.
So that was like the start of mini community building. And I actually have become good friends with a lot of the parents that I've met at the pop-ups. I've actually done photo shoots with some of them as well. And that's been a really valuable part and rewarding. It's been a very rewarding part of the experience. And then in the summer, by the time that summer came around, I had now curated and designed a few other products that I just instinctually, I mean, of course I did research on what is in the market, but instinctually said, I just have to really put some advertising spend behind this and give it a try. And we did, and it was very successful. Some seasonal products. So that was very exciting.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, well, one, you put in the work to build a community of followers and people that would be into the brand. But yeah, I feel like, it would be so exciting to see people love it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it would be so fruitful to be able to witness that in person. But what a challenging time to do that during COVID and stuff. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was different. It was unique. It's a
Different.
unique experience. Yeah. And I agree. It's so rewarding when I hear from parents or, friends that have bought for other people's children that, oh, that product that we bought from Big Little Universe is so-and-so's absolute favorite and they won't leave home without it. And, or when I hear from parents that they never travel without a particular thing, product from us, that's really the main point as to what I want to be able to do, right? Create even small moments of like more convenience and value for families.
Yeah. So, okay, what year is this for you for Big Little Universe?
This is 1.2. So we're in, or 1.5, sorry.
Okay.
We're in year 2.
That's amazing. Okay, so what are some of the biggest challenges you have faced in launching Big Little Universe?
Okay, let's see. I think there's so many different challenges that happen day to day as well. So there's a lot of things that are obviously like out of my control, which can include things that, right, are like in prototype making, which is part of the design process, things can be made incorrectly. So there's a file or a format of how you create what's called a tech pack that you send to the makers or the manufacturers.
Okay.
And as thorough as you will be, a lot of times the prototypes, the first samples can come back incorrectly. It could come back incorrectly the second, third, fourth time. And it can be very time consuming. So that's a challenge. There's been challenges because of COVID, like timing. Factories have been shutting down. Some of my makers have been getting sick at times. Also like lack of materials, which has been something that we've really had to like work around, or I had to like rethink. And then of course, like shipping as well. That's also a timing thing. There's also challenges around, I have every single product tested. The testing protocol or requirements can just really lead to very extensive just design, redesign, iteration, revision for very simple things such as like crayons. There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of different requirements. And so it's something that is extremely important for safety, but also that I love being able to know. Of course, we want every single product that gets tested to pass right away, right? In some ways. But when it doesn't, it's also it's great news, because I'm like, all right, what's wrong and what do we need to improve on? And how do we revise this to still, contain and have all the different design aspects and functionality that I love and want to maintain.
Right.
But we need to iterate. So that's those are some of the challenges
Okay, so
that
like,
occur.
why would a product fail? Like, what, can you give
Hmm.
me an example? I'm just really curious.
Yeah, sure. No, of course. There's a lot of, depending on what the product is what determines by the testing center. And I use an international testing center. There's
Okay,
also different types of testing centers. You
I
can test
see.
for just the US. Since I'm US based, I could do that, but I test for international. So the requirements are all different. But generally speaking, right, of course, it depends. Soft products like flammability, is something that's tested for. Yes, like how quickly or how flammable is an item. Um, Dyes can be toxic. So can paints. Paints can be toxic depending on how and where
Mm.
the paint is coming from. Choking hazards are also a very big part of the testing. Um, it's tested to see like if there's any loose parts that are small enough to be a choking hazard. There's what else is there? There's also like testing for sort of mechanical errors, such as like for ride-ons,
Mhm.
meaning like tricycles or scooters or little, ride-on products. There's what's called like pinch points that can happen. So when a steering wheel or handle is turned, there's very specific math that needs to happen in order to make sure that a limb or a finger or toes like don't get pinched or stuck. um Also weight limitation or limit,
Mm.
testing around weight is also a very important part, so that a child at a certain weight sits on a product. It needs to be stable and it needs to stay functioning. um and yeah, I think those are some of the main points that I think covers majority of it.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, the
that is like
testing.
super fascinating. Things I never think about, but I should be really grateful for because without testing, I'm sure there'd be so many accidents in a home. Um, but okay, so you were saying how um, I don't know what you called it, but like the
Hmm.
preliminary design or whatever.
Prototype.
Okay, the prototype. Well, you were saying you send it to the factories to get made, and then they'll send it
Uh-huh.
back, and then like sometimes
Yes.
you do a back and forth. Like in that
Yes.
time, like do you lose money because you're sending things back and forth?
Yes.
Oh gosh. Oh man. Okay. So
It
like
costs money every time.
okay, I'm hesitant to ask you and you don't have to answer it, but like say like you send something and like it's just a little bit off, not a lot. Like
To the
which
factory
yeah,
or to the manufacturer.
yeah, like so like say they send something back and like you're looking at it and it's just like
Hmm.
slightly off from what you had like originally imagined.
Oh,
Like
okay.
would you just like go with it? Cuz like I mean, it's
No.
a lot of work.
The straight answer is no.
Okay.
Now are there times and scenarios where it's not absolutely exactly what I want, but we move forward? Sure. Well, but that's only because I'm value engineering, if that makes sense. So,
Okay.
right, like I actually wanted to use for not I wanted to use a very specific Japanese fabric
Mhm.
for some of the soft products that I initially designed. Not only was it extremely difficult to find, but it was going to not only be cost effective, like it was going to take a long time, and also is extremely expensive for a product that I could get the exact same quality for and not source it from Japan.
Mhm. Mhm.
So in that sense, right, it's not exactly what I envision. But that's sort of the beauty of, I think, being a designer. And with all the experiences I've had, I know the areas that the value engineering, or hey, like let's this particular part, this woven label doesn't need to be linen right now. Cotton is going to be okay, right? Like those little details, like this particular woven label doesn't need to be embroidered. It can be silk screened and you will still get the message across. It will still do exactly what it needs to do and function. And I will go with that. So in that sense, yes, at times it's not exactly what I vision. And also you have to be scrappy and, be smart about where you're putting the money that you're spending. But if something comes back and I'm not happy with even like an eyeball, the placement of an eyeball or, the shape of the sewing or the way the lines are like, it's a no. I will not approve it. So that's how particular I am.
No, I mean, I would imagine, especially if it's your design, I just had to ask because I feel like it would be so frustrating, to like have to play this back and forth, but also knowing where to be flexible. I think it's funny that you like, oh yes, but then what's also mind blowing for me is that you even have to think about all of those details. Like when you said like the sewn in tag needs to either be embroidered or silk screened, I'm like, oh my goodness. So many details to think about, but so important to a brand in itself, right? Like how you put yourself out there. But also, like you mentioned, like it's okay if it's not. Like
Yeah.
Sung, would you mind kind of taking me back? Actually, I feel like I would have some listeners that are interested in knowing about your experience at Parsons and in art school, um,
Mhm.
and like what that was like for you. I know it's been a minute probably, but I
Mhm.
also know I've with previous guests they tell me that even applying to art school is challenging in itself. You have to like turn in a whole bunch of stuff, portfolio. They start
Artwork.
early on,
Yeah.
but yeah, could you like recall some of that experience for me?
Yeah, sure. I went to a fine arts school knowing that I would want to be an artist of some sort or creative. So I think that even like having a different format of training before school, before actually even applying for college, really helped sort of create like a bit of a foundation and have some fundamentals. At Parsons in particular, there's something called a foundation year where the first year you have an option to, I believe it was three, you get to choose three different majors that you get to try out during that time.
Oh wow.
And so I tried fashion and communication design event. Fashion was my number one actually choice initially going into school. But once I got there, I just felt taking the classes, I just didn't feel as passionate. I also felt like my background and what I had trained in thus far wasn't as applicable, if that makes sense, to what I was going to be doing in fashion. As much as I knew how to sew, I knew how to do figure drawing. It was just like a different level of, interest that the other students that were in fashion had, and I think I just like took that to heart and thought, like perhaps like keeping the skill sets I want to learn more broad could give me a better opportunity to figure out what it is that I wanted to do. And communication design is a lot more broad, and you get to choose within that major what different types of classes and skill sets you want to learn. So that's what I did. And then schooling, I think Parsons was a really great training program. Really, they give you all the tools, and I didn't go to any other college, so I wouldn't know otherwise. But I feel like they really set you up and show you how it could potentially be in the real world. They give you certain projects and kind of impossible projects, I would say, and like very intense deadlines. Really, I feel like to train you. It's kind of like a boot camp to real life when you are in the design world. And then they give you other tools such as like, you have career days, and I became very good friends with the career services director. Yes. And it's really up to you. You have to do the work afterwards, but the foundation and sort of the tools are given to you. So I felt like it was a really good, not just really good, I think it was an extremely great experience for me. And I felt after school, I didn't really find it challenging to find a job or to work. But I think it's also really up to the individual.
Sure. Yeah.
And again, I was a communication design major, so I think I also had a bit more flexibility in the type of work I could do. Whereas
Right. And you said
fashion,
also
for
that,
instance,
that
is
you were
very,
set
yes,
up with an internship as well, right? That kind of allowed you to more open doors.
Yeah, well, I decided that I wanted to start interning as soon as I could. And I'm sure someone had also, guided and taught us that. I'm not sure that I just like knew on my own that that's what would be next. But as soon as I could start interning, which was my sophomore year, I just started taking on internships. And that was really, really great exposure to seeing how the glamorous world of design could be in the different categories.
But so did you grow up in New York?
When I was younger, I grew up in Maryland.
Okay. So you weren't too far from home then.
Yeah, far, but close, but far.
Far enough.
It's far enough, yeah. New York was so different than where I grew up. So, I mean, I fully loved it. New York is still like home for me.
Yeah.
At least right now. It's where all my friends and network and sort of my career developed. So,
So what
I call New
made
York
you
home
move
still,
to
yeah.
California?
I moved to California initially in a relationship.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That was why I had initially moved. And then things changed. So I ended up wanting to give California a chance because I've also always thought, oh, like it would be amazing to live on the West Coast and have the ideal outdoorsy life, right? And be adventurous, which I really do love, and it's a big part of my life. So decided to stay.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
And so you've been doing most of Big Little Universe from the West Coast then now?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Do you feel like it influences the kinds of products that you design for the brand? Like location?
It's interesting. I think I'm naturally inspired, right, by my environment. But what's interesting is, okay, seasonally, right now, sales are best in California, just because I think my seasonal products kind of naturally are summer, and, California is a bigger market. But my second largest sales are all come from New York.
Oh.
So it's not really a fair comparison, because I think, again, the seasonal thing is probably why, but I don't know yet. It's still too early to really know. But when I heard that it was New York, or when I've seen that it's New York is number 2, I've been like, the core and the foundation of New York is right there, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Is how it feels. So yeah, I'm not sure. I'm sure it does, but
Well, I think part of the reason I asked too is because for me, one of the products that I've had my eye on getting for my own kids is the sand toys. And so, like, for me, I'm like, oh, like, I wonder why they went with beach, because like there aren't that many beach toy products, right? Like out there that I've come across. So I just go to, Costco or like Target.
Yeah.
But your products are so different that I'm like, oh, I wonder if it's because she's near the beach that she kind of thought this is a product that is necessary or like parents want.
No, not necessarily, actually. It's more about, so I think sort of the design sensibility and how I think about things is what's the common thread. So it's not particularly that I'm thinking, oh, I'm by the beach now, so how can I solve for a beach product that's easy to travel with, that's convenient, that's like better for the environment because it lasts longer. It's more that there are certain products that I'll see that I'm like, oh, that I don't need to reinvent the whole wheel. Also, I'm not necessarily like innovating anything brand new. All the aspects and elements of what I design are things that exist. It's just how can we make it better? Like, can this
Mm.
product be made of a different material or less material? Can this product do and function in a better way? How can we make it so that it's easy to use and can last longer or function in a different way
Mm-hmm.
so that you can ultimately really have less stuff, like truly be more minimal? Because as parents, every single parent and friend that I know that have children, just you end up with so much stuff.
Crap. We just end up with crap,
So
is what
much
it is.
stuff.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Okay. Um, I have to ask, is there anything you don't like about currently what you do?
I don't dislike anything.
Okay.
But the one thing that I guess I would say is it would be really, I wish I could do everything. I don't like that I can't do everything. Like if I were like a cartoon octopus and like had all these arms in order to, right, like do multiple things at the same time, that would be amazing, but that's not the reality. There's so many different aspects now, especially with technology, social media, different outlets, and how you get information out there, that it's just really different than I would say, right? Even before COVID. So just a few years ago. So that's I think the one part that I feel often I need to really stay focused on in order to just also stay in my lane as much as like, well, stay in my lane as in, I mean, I really like, it's really just me. I have like freelancers and I have help in certain areas, but of course I still do a lot of it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I find myself at times actually, easily getting distracted to wanting to do other things because I need to be the person doing it. So having a very like rigid schedule is something that really helps me the most to really stay on top of things.
Right. I
And
mean,
even still there's like things I want to do all the time. So
yeah, no, I can't even imagine. I mean, I'm sure having that schedule helps, but at the same time, I'm sure there are a million things that you need to get done in order for things to move forward in your
mhm.
brand. And if you're anything like me, I'm kind of like, I wouldn't say I'm anxious, but like when there are things to get done, I just want them to get done properly and well, And
Of
I
course,
don't
yeah.
own a business, so I can't imagine the things that you have to get done. But yeah, like
You're
I
you're a
too.
parent. That's pretty much
Yeah.
a business in itself as well. You really are. You are the boss.
Thanks for the empathy. I appreciate it. But like, yes, I too wish that I could like make 50 of me so that I could just do everything. Okay, so what do you like the best about what you're currently doing right now?
Yeah, it's really the most rewarding to be able to connect and build, right, a community through what I'm doing, because it is, again, like the most rewarding when I hear back from people that have bought products, or if I
Mm.
like, right, like reconnecting and just hearing like, oh my gosh, like this was super popular, or now I'm the favorite uncle or aunt at the birthday party because of your suggestion or because of the products that we purchased. And I'm just hoping that I can do a lot more of it and really connect with even more families, because it's also where I get my inspiration, is
Mm.
hearing about like the different challenges, or also just like watching people and how they function day to day, especially with children and different families. So that's what I love the most.
That's awesome. Something came to mind as you were talking, and Are there any challenges in you being an Asian American woman that started this Big Little Universe brand?
Interesting question. Funny enough, it was the first time I feel like I had a real hesitation before I soft launched because it was during COVID. I was hesitant. I actually really thought about it for a good amount of time if I wanted to put my face on the brand and kind of expose, I guess, that I was an Asian American female. But after the fact, and it hasn't been an issue. I haven't necessarily faced anything too challenging around being a Asian American, but yes, I took some time to think about it.
Yeah.
I was nervous. I was there's definitely going to be certain people and audiences that I won't, I won't resonate with, or, people will align with the brand because of it. But
Right.
I decided to just kind of go forward, and I'm like, this is me and this is the brand.
No,
And let
I
everyone know.
was hesitant to ask only because in talking to you in the last 45 minutes, I know that you are confident in what you do, and you're confident even in your giftings and your talents. And, I would imagine that, I mean, I myself too, I don't really feel that way, if I'm honest. I don't really feel threatened by people because of who I am or my ethnicity. However, I know that there are challenges. I know that it can arise. And for me, it is very sobering, what you just said. That there was a moment of hesitation for you, that it's how are people going to respond to that? And that's really sobering. And really heavy and to consider, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. And I applaud you for even just moving forward. It's really great. But thank you for your honesty. I really appreciate it. So I feel like I asked all the questions I wanted to, but was there anything that you wanted to share in particular that I missed or didn't ask you about?
Okay. I would love to speak about, in obstacles and, having a business that's a question, but the way and format of how I've been able to apply certain skill sets to my personal and professional life. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Can you please?
Some
I
notes.
would love to learn.
So, I think, you were asking me earlier, what are obstacles and challenges? And of course, there's work obstacles and challenges all the time. But I think the way that I've been able to manage any kind of obstacle, personal or professional, is when I started my meditation practice. That's really helped. That's really helped me overall. And I think some the main points would be being able to learn how to practice stillness. And it's been such a great tool because it really helps make better decisions, because you're making those decisions from a much more calm state. I'm naturally a very high energy person.
No,
You're
no
like,
kidding.
it's obvious. even when I'm calm, it's high, I believe, at times intense energy. But yeah, that has really helped. And that also has helped give a lot of clarity, and has helped me particularly learn about self-awareness, just awareness in general,
Yeah.
but also self-awareness. So once I've been able to have that, it helps also to be more open-minded about areas and points that could not go in the way that you ideally would want it to go, just challenging scenarios. And of course, like relationships, right? Business is all about also relationships. That's the main thing. Everyone knows how to do their job. Like, I can design stuff, I can make stuff. And depending on your occupation, you know how to do your job. You've been trained in it.
Yeah.
But when you now have people that you have to manage and learn how to build relationships with and build trust, that's where it's really challenging because there's so many variables. You have no idea. Yeah. What could happen. So that's really helped. And I think with the stillness, which helps gain clarity and awareness, I think that's helped also just stay very consistent, or as consistent as I can be in personal and in business. And I think that's something that can be applied to both. And that's really helped me overcome many, just many different moments, whether it's in my head or something that's happening outside of my body. It's been my most significant tool.
No, I mean, I really appreciate that advice because I feel like even like it just gets so busy, life. And then like on top of that, there's screens, right? Like phones and just the need to always be either doing something,
Connected.
looking down, at your phone. And I feel that I'm guilty as well. But like, yeah, just moments of stillness. That's really good, Sung. Like I need that in my life. And so, but yeah, and just kind of moments to like clear your mind. Okay, like what is the focus here? What is the purpose? I really love that. That's really sound advice, and I really appreciate you sharing that. But speaking of advice, do you happen to I always ask people like towards the end of our time together, if you have any advice for somebody that is listening to this and is like, hey, like design, like the field that you're in right now, like that's something maybe I'm interested in. Like, yeah, any advice for them?
I just think that everyone should be very diligent in how they're approaching whatever it is that they want to learn. I would say it's extremely important to stay very curious. And I say that also in a way without having you be very distracted. That's very different, right? Don't get distracted, but stay curious in terms of what questions you want to ask, what you want to learn about. I also think it's extremely important. It's an extremely important skill set to learn how to do focused listening. It's actually a skill set that you need to like learn. And it's a work in progress for me.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
So when people are always like, oh, like, you got to be a good listener, or this person is a good listener, because of all the different distractions that we have nowadays, especially, and our attention spans are just on it's a different trajectory. There's just so much more stimulation and distractions. I think it's very important to consciously put the technology away and to have time for yourself where you train and learn how to do focused listening. So if it is engaging with a person, you have to put all the other distractions aside and truly like listen to what the other person is saying, make eye contact. Your body language is also very important in being able to receive the information, regardless of what it is that they might be speaking about, just being very present.
Yes.
Right. And I really think it takes a lot of practice.
Yeah, no.
And it takes effort. It takes effort. Nowadays, it really takes effort because we're just so used to staying and being connected and distracted all the time that I think focused listening is an important part of like a connection skill, like a life skill that we like need to almost like relearn.
Yes, absolutely. And that's really sad, but true.
Yeah, it is true. Yeah.
Okay, but you were saying so being curious, not distracted, focused listening with any, and not, you don't have to just give advice about you
Mm-hmm.
know, design or the interests that you have been sharing with us tonight. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, focused listening is like a life advice. Do you have any other like life advice? You've lived a lot longer
Other
than some of
life
my
advice.
listeners, if I'm honest.
Cool. I got that. um, I would say don't be afraid to ask for help.
Mm,
That's something that I am actively working on. It's something that I think also depending on upbringing or perhaps your background
sure.
can be more natural or not. And it just doesn't hurt if you're respectful and reasonable in asking for help. The worst thing that's going to happen is that person will say no, but then you try again. Or perhaps you can also learn why they said no and
Mm.
just continue to um, and continue to try from there. So I think it only leads to success, right? If you're open to and always are willing to just be okay with asking for help.
Oh man, I'm so bad at that. And like I hate rejection. I
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
even like reaching out to you, I was like, please at least respond to me.
Oh, really?
No, but it's because it's like it's just like um I guess I don't know how to say it. Like I'm really bad. I'm a perfectionist, right? I just want to be good at everything. So like I think me too, like as a mom now, and as I'm getting older, it's like, yeah, so what? Like you people make mistakes and you ask people for help, and if they say no, what's the big deal? And there are times I'm like, it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. But, like hearing people like you like encourage that, I'm like, yes, I'm gonna take Sung's advice and I'm going to apply it to my life. Um, but it is hard. I think, like you mentioned, upbringing is a big thing, right? Like how you were raised. I think I would be as bold as to say that I think a lot of Asian Americans, do have trouble asking for help a lot of times, at least the
Mm.
ones that I grew up around. But I
No,
appreciate,
absolutely,
yeah.
because yeah, because you can burden someone, right?
Yes.
And growing up Korean American, um, that's a very important part, right? You want to be respectful and not burden anyone, and it's a big part of I think it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
So I understand that. Yeah.
But we got to break it because none of that anymore.
Yeah, I think I do think that, having, right, the values and how our parents raised us is very important, but being aware of like how and where you can apply or change some of the thinking can be a big benefit. And yeah, just I mean staying respectful too. It's another big part of something that I work on daily is how I communicate with my mom, who
Mm.
just comes from a very different mindset and background, right? Um, in trying to help her understand, I have to get better about my communication and how much information I give her so that it can help her understand. And she doesn't have to agree. No one has to necessarily agree. If you can just help the other person have a better understanding by giving them context and to explain and calmly give more information. A lot of times, like I've found as the years have gone on, that my mom is also much more open and receptive, even if she still does not agree.
Yeah, that's
And
really
we have
hard.
those areas for sure.
That's so hard, It's challenging, but yeah. So so true. Thank you so much for even bringing that up, because I feel like that's still a struggle even for us in, our 30s. So, yes.
I am still in my
Well,
30s.
Sung, no, no.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to put you on the spot, but I'm going to. And since you just mentioned it's okay to ask for help, if there's anyone listening tonight that's thinking, "Hey, I want to know more about Sung. I want to see if she has any advice, more advice that she can give me," would you be okay with me connecting you with them?
Absolutely. I would love to be I would love to be a part of that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hey guys, so if you enjoyed this episode and you have more questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can email me at podcastwigu@gmail.com, or you can DM me on social media, and I will connect you with Sung right away. Sung, thank you so much again for your time. I really appreciate it. You are amazing. By the way, you are gorgeous. Just to
Oh my
put it
gosh,
out
thank
there.
you.
But thank you again. You are the sweetest. And can I tell people about the discount? Okay. So if you are interested in purchasing Big Little Universe products, Sung has been so gracious to provide us with the discount code. It's WIGU 15, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. And so
For when I grow up, 15.
yes. Yeah, when I grow up, 15. So if you need the code, I'll definitely put it out on social media. But thank you so much, you guys. Go check out Big Little Universe. It is full of wonderful products. My mom friends, you know what to do. But Sung, thank you so much again.
Thank you. It was an honor to be on the show today or on the podcast. Sorry, we're not on a show.
Okay.
It was an honor to be on the podcast, and I hope that some information that we shared today can be helpful to some of the listeners.
No, definitely. Thanks again. Until next time, guys. Bye.